Hello, everyone. I'm Bill Brenner, VP of Content Strategy at CyberRisk Alliance, and I'm thrilled to be joined by some friends from Security Weekly to talk about the issues professionals will, or should, be talking about at RSA Conference 2023 next month. This segment is sponsored by Cisco. I'd like you to give a warm welcome to my panelists, starting with Adrian Sanabria. He is host of Enterprise Security Weekly and, in his day job, Director of Product Marketing at Valence Security. Did I get that right, Adrian? Because this is like a brand new role, right?
Yeah. I'm 3 weeks in. I say it Valence Security, but I'm well, no one's corrected me, so I assume that's how the company says it.
So that's why I ask. We're also joined by my friend Josh Marpet, a host on Paul Security Weekly, and in his day job, tell everybody where you work, unless you don't want to.
No. It's fine. I'm let's see. I run B-Sides conferences. I'm an EINS faculty member. I run a small company named MJM Growth. I do a lot of different stuff all day, every day, and it somehow comes together and makes me money. I don't know. I have fun.
It's a beautiful thing. And last but certainly not least, we have Jason Wood. He also is a host of Security Weekly News, and in his day job is a senior researcher at CrowdStrike. So welcome, gentlemen. Good to see you all. So I'm going to start with an open-ended question. Same question for all three of you, but Adrian, we'll start with you. In a nutshell, what do you see as the biggest concerns / topics that security professionals should be spending most of their time talking about and studying up on and getting educated on at RSA?
I think AI is going to dominate the conversation, and we're still scratching just the tip of the iceberg of the top of the iceberg that we can see in what kind of concerns we should have about it. What kind of benefits are going to come from it. But it seems to me, and I feel strongly that all security folks should be technologists. We should all be early adopters. We shouldn't be late to the game when figuring out how to secure things. So we should be looking at technology right when it comes out. And right now is a very pivotal moment, because I think it's inevitable that companies will want to shove all their data into some kind of AI large language model, which might be a SaaS service. It might be something you run on-prem. But the idea that you have a virtual employee that never forgets anything, knows the answer to every question that's related to internal conversations that have been had, emails that have been sent, documents that have been created, it's going to be impossible to ignore the benefits and the productivity gains that you would get out of something like that. So right now we need to be thinking about,
and the risks.
How do we address the privacy concerns of that? Like, obviously we don't want it training on the DMs, right? Where does the expectation of privacy end and begin for employees? There's a lot of considerations that are going to go into this, and now is the time to be thinking about it.
I would agree. Josh, I know you have some thoughts on this. Go ahead.
So, you're talking about ChatGPT, and that was the topic I wanted to hit, so it's perfect. Thank you for the lead-in. But the idea is not just that you have an employee that doesn't forget anything, is always there, reminds you of every appointment in excruciating detail before it happens, and will even write your position paper for that appointment before it happens, and never, ever forgets to do it. But how about the fact that doesn't have the judgment to know which data is acceptable to put into general population, doesn't have the context, or doesn't give you the context to give you a full picture of what's going on, tells you need to do this, but why? Yeah. Okay, we're on the cusp of, and by the way, now let's talk about the enterprise aspects of that, Mr. Host of Enterprise Security Weekly. And the enterprise aspect is that we have so many people that have no contract with their third parties to not put their data in an AI system. Okay? Yeah. So not a single contract out there that you have with your partner, your data sharing affiliate, your whatever. And by the way, Bing AI is now yelling at me literally as we speak because it heard me say AI. Not even joking. Oh my God, that's funny. Oh no, wait, that's not Bing AI. There's that Skype AI. Skype now has an AI. Oh wow. Oh, this is funny. Okay, sorry. That's literally like just now.
It's germane to the conversation. I keep thinking of, we know about all the ways in which ChatGPT and other programs of its like can add value, but man, I think of all of the opportunities to take it and use it for ill. And I think that's the thing that I spend the most time worrying about. Am I off track there?
I mean, that was where I was going to go. Everybody's talking about AI and is interested in it, concerned about it, and how are they going to use it in their organizations? But we have a whole group of adversaries out there that are also always trying to get better and always trying to get around whatever it is we're doing. They're technology geeks too. They're going to start looking at what can we do with this? How can we screw with this? How can we make money off of this or extract information from it that we want?
I just saw ransomware code written with it the other day.
I'm so shocked.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah. I know. This is your shock face?
Yeah. I mean, okay, there it is. Of course they're going to look at this. Can we do this to get around things better or adapt tools quickly and be more productive? They're going to look at that.
So let's talk for a second while we're on the topic of AI about security vendors who will be there exhibiting. Any thoughts, and we can start with you, Josh. Any thoughts on security vendors that you think are really doing a good job at taking a serious look at this, the benefits and the risks and the role that they have to play?
No, honestly, no. And
the
problem is not, well, here's the thing. It's not the security vendor's fault. Look, I found out on this call that Skype integrated Bing AI. Okay? It's being integrated across all of O365 as we speak. Mm-hmm. There is no way, most of the big banks have gone, we've blocked all the chat GPTs. No, you haven't. You're wrong. You're lying. You don't know you're lying, but you are. Okay, so actually, without the element of commission, it's not a lie. It's a mistake. But sorry, now I'm getting technical. But no, I mean, you cannot block it. It's built into Skype now. It's built into Bing. So unless you block Edge, you can't block it. Okay, I don't have to go to OpenAI.com to get access to a Chat GPT. All right. Plus, Midjourney, which is an image AI, it doesn't even interact with you on HTTP. It has a website, Midjourney.com. You go there simply to get the invite to the Discord so that you can feed it a prompt. So no, the problem is that not a single security vendor out there is capable of doing a damn thing about this because it's text. I just type in what I want. And I'm not typing, nuclear secrets.
Yeah.
So
let me
I think what you're getting at.
Let me turn that question around a little bit, Adrian.
Okay.
Because there are security companies that, Josh, I think you put it correctly. But then there are those who they may not have this worked into anything at the product level, but they've decided as a company that this is an important issue that we need to be talking about. Invicti is one that comes to mind. They've been doing a lot of talking about the potential and the peril.
And that's a beautiful way of putting it. There's the potential and the peril.
Yeah.
We can use this to do really good things. But just as with any tool in security or the real world or any field, any tool that you can do amazingly good things with, you can also do amazingly evil or nasty or bad things with, or just careless things with.
Dual use.
Dual use, exactly. And it's the same debate we had about open source tooling not that long ago, if you remember. And it's the same debate between responsible and full disclosure. And it's the same debate between, Cobalt Strike is now cracked and used everywhere as a tool for evil. It's the exact same thing. But in this case, this has that same dual use argument with the momentum of blockchain from 5 years ago, if you remember that.
I do. Yes.
And Adrian, I'll shut up and turn it over to you because you had a point to make.
Yes, and I apologize, Adrian. I kind of ran over you there. So go ahead. You have the floor.
Yeah. So, well, did you finish asking I think you were asking me a question, though.
Well, just the question is, for those who will be exhibiting at RSA, everybody is going to want to say that they are playing an active role in using AI for the betterment of security, and there will be those who are going to want to talk a lot about like I said, the potential and the peril.
Right.
And so I mentioned one company that I know has been talking about it, but anyone out there that you think has really stepped up to really start working this into the security conversation?
Yeah, I'm fairly optimistic about this, and I think it does. We have to do some threat mapping here. We have to kind of think through scenarios of what we're worried about. Most of it is like maybe it speeds up certain things that bad guys do, but I don't see it as being like a huge revolution necessarily. Like, yeah, you'll be able to write phishing emails with it. People can use it to write code, but like there's nothing new there. There's already tons of mature exploit and malware code out there already, so yeah, maybe it speeds up some of these things, but I don't see anything brand new that the bad guys can do with it that they haven't been able to before. I mean, it's a huge modifier to productivity, I think. So it's more the pace of things that it's going to speed up. I'd be surprised if any of the companies at the expo at RSA won't have something to talk about in how it's on their roadmap, how they're using it to improve their product. And I think it can really improve a lot of products. Like, first of all, support. You can feed your entire knowledge base, everything you know about supporting your product to a chat bot that's trained on, using this LLM technology. And support might suck less in the future. You won't have to wait on hold to get a hold of a human. You won't have to wait for somebody to email you back. For 90% plus of the things that you need. Maybe you need a license renewed or something like that. I think we're going to walk into an age where company support being awful can finally change. Yeah. But yeah, mostly, and I think you should go to RSA and ask companies, what do you have in your roadmap, that's using this? Because AI has been a buzzword in security before, but in a different way. Building machine learning models to train on security data and stuff like that is different from the generative AI and the kind of thinking AI that we're starting to see now. Yeah,
for sure. So I'm going to switch gears now because there are a lot of topics I want to try and touch on. One certain subject of conversation is going to be about threats organizations face amid the geopolitical strife that we see. The war between Russia and Ukraine, China's various moves on the global stage, and a lot of the cyber mischief, mayhem that happens as a byproduct of that. So with that in mind, what do you see as, when it comes to things that can be exploited, by those motivated by matters of state. What do you see as the biggest vulnerabilities in this area that continue to be the biggest struggle? And what should attendees at RSA be pondering when it comes to mounting a better defense against that? I'd like to start here with Josh.
Okay. So, I can interpret your question several ways.
Mm-hmm.
I can interpret your question as, what are the targets for the entities involved in the various wars and such and so forth. I can interpret your question as, what should we be protecting on our end? There's a few different ways, but
I'm really asking about all of that.
Then let's talk.
So pick your perch.
You've got a very highly technically competent area, Ukraine and parts of Russia. Okay, you've also got hangers-on and other countries in the area. For example, Armenia. I'm working with them right now. They're trying to develop an entire ecosystem around pen testing and development so that they can be economically independent of Russia and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And they're really trying to. They're doing a great job. But ignoring all of the other countries, let's just talk about Ukraine and Russia for just a minute. Ukraine has a huge history of technical competence. They've produced significant numbers of those Russian programmers we all talk about for years and years and years, right? Most of them were Ukrainian. Ukraine had the best technical schools. Ukraine had the best engineering schools. Ukraine had it was where it was. It was a huge center for intellectualism. That's where my family came from about 4 generations ago. Okay, so I'm bragging, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, you've got these centers for technical expertise that are now focused on hammering the crap out of Russia. Now, you've also got businesses that are trying to just work, and they've got to make sure they've got bandwidth, and it keeps getting hammered. They've got to make sure they have power. That keeps getting hammered. They've got to make sure that they have what they need to do their job. And all of those are getting hammered by for God's sakes, hypersonic missiles from Russia. I mean, if that isn't a science fiction show, I don't know what is.
Right.
But what you've got Russia using effectively, I'm operating under the premise that Russia has nationalized all the ransomware gangs. Why? Money.
Right.
They get money out of this. And they get to target those ransomware gangs. They get to say, hit healthcare in the US. They can use them to influence us, to influence our public opinions, to influence what we believe in conjunction with PSYOP, psychological operations, human intelligence gathering, and all of the other pieces. So you know what? It's still going to get money, but it's dual use in a different way. They get money and they get some politically operative capital out of it.
So Jason,
it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it is. So Jason, I'm interested in your assessment. I'm thinking of that CrowdStrike lens.
Right. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this because, I am looking at intrusions at least suspected intrusions by state-sponsored adversaries every week as part of my job. And one of the things, as far as, what do attendees at RSA need to be concerned with or be thinking about or whatever, I think there's a couple of things. One is, well, they're not going to be interested in me because of whatever. Well, maybe not. I see a lot of companies in various parts of the world get targeted for for reasons. If you're doing cryptocurrency, for example, congratulations, you are in the North Korean sites for money. That's what they're after. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter how small you are or large. They're interested in you. Yeah. You've got, China is interested in intellectual property and information gathering, and they're very busy with it. It's a great avenue for them to get in and try and get this information, and they're taking advantage of it. And one of the things that I am concerned with, and I'll admit some bias here again because of where I work, and I'm on a threat hunting team, is but we've talked about this for years in security. We're waiting for something to tell us that something's gone wrong, but we've got groups that are trying to. I mean, they get a hold of credentials. This is an area where these state-sponsored groups go after is identity type of attacks, where they go and they get credentials. They find an area where, oh, look, we've got single-factor authentication over here. Somebody hung RDP on the internet. I'm just going to log in as this person. And then they start poking around the network, and they start spreading, and they use that, unimportant system. I'll hear about that from time to time. I don't want to protect this system very much because it's not that important, but it becomes a beachhead. So, it's you got a lot of, we've got to do better at monitoring usage of accounts, where it's coming from, when is it happening, things like that, and get out there and go actively looking for signs of an intruder being in our environment, particularly on the state-sponsored side, because they're not all usually looking to destroy the place and burn it down. They want to stay in there and stay quiet and just kind of keep getting information and use it to pivot to other organizations. Maybe they're not interested in you, but they're interested in somebody you do business with. And so, they don't do stuff that is going to inherently cause, drop in some kind of ransomware or something. I mean, they might, but typically they're not going to drop a ransomware binary or something, that is obviously known bad. They're just going to lurk around and fly under the radar. And so, yeah, I mean, look at things around identity and how that's abused. And how can you how can your security team be more active in your environment rather than sitting back waiting for something to say something's gone wrong? Dig into it, see what you can find and see if something unusual is happening.
Yeah.
Adrian,
Assume breach. Adrian.
Really.
Any thoughts?
Not really. I mean, just to echo some of what's been said, I think the important thing here to note, or one of the important things is that there's very different motivations here. Like what was said about North Korea. This is most of their GDP is taking money from places. So, you should expect them to do that. And I don't know, like China, it's kind of hard to defend against some of that, but at the same time, individual companies and individuals haven't really been that impacted by a lot of their hacks because their goal wasn't to steal somebody's identity or to sell, information on the market or to ransom someone. It's more politically focused. So we haven't really seen any huge direct or even indirect losses due to some of China's hacking, but it is disruptive from like a larger industry perspective, especially as we talk about rebuilding some of these industries domestically, and certainly, on the political level, as China kind of hesitantly meets with Russia, right. Realizing that even though they don't really like each other, they have to somewhat be friends, because they've got I don't want to say common enemies, but common. Yeah, for China, I guess China's a frenemy and Russia's an enemy, and it's complicated. But yeah, I mean, some of that it's they have professionals. It's going to be hard to defend against a China, whereas in North Korea, you should have an easier time there. It's their hacks aren't quite as sophisticated, but not an area of expertise for me. But I do think it's noteworthy that each of them have different motivations, and they're going to go about things differently. And I think we have a fairly mature research industry now within security. Pretty impressive. There are reports coming out almost daily on different tactics and tools that are being used, how to detect them. Everything's mapped to the attack matrix. Like we've got such good intelligence now, and a lot of it's free, so take advantage of it.
Yeah. So I'm going to switch gears again because last year we were talking about the threats exacerbated in the wake of the pandemic. So all of these companies rushing to the cloud to keep their businesses on the rails, to enable remote work. And I think this year the conversation will continue, but with more of a focus on, okay, we're here now, we're in the cloud, we've seen all the things that can go wrong. What are the things we can do to make this experience more secure? So Adrian, let's start with you there. Any thoughts on how that conversation will shape?
Yeah. So sorry, reiterate the question for me there again. I want to make sure I'm.
So when people are discussing the fact that, they spent the pandemic really accelerating their migration to the cloud.
Right.
In the process, finding that it's very easy to have vulnerabilities that are left behind, that are taken advantage of. So here we are, 2023. Where do you think this discussion needs to be going?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So there's a couple of legacy things that are still a mess. Vulnerability management is very fragmented, very much a mess. To have a full vulnerability management program, you're going to run a bunch of tools from a bunch of different vendors. I think we've seen some efforts to consolidate into some of the traditional ones, but honestly, the traditional vulnerability management vendors did such a bad job with providing insights and any meaningful understanding of the data that they collect. We saw an entire sub-industry pop up. The Kenas, the Vulcan Cyber, the Nucleus security, just to clean up that mess. Just to kind of correlate all this together and make some semblance of it. And still today, security teams are tasked with, maybe 1 million things that are rated critical. Like that's your short list. That's your highest rated things that you should be taking care of. And if there's 1 million things on that list, where do you start? It can't be 1 million things can't be critical. So you've got to bring it down to a shorter list, and maybe that's AI has helped a little bit with that. There's the exploit prediction scoring system, EPSS, which attempts to look at a vulnerability in the same way that an exploit developer would. And if it looks good to an exploit developer and it's something they would write an exploit for, you get a higher score on the EPSS list. Mm-hmm. So, there's been some advances there, but still your cloud vulnerabilities are going to come from a different product. Any issues you have with your SaaS stuff is going to come from a different product. You have no idea what vulnerabilities your third parties have. You don't even know what vulnerable libraries are maybe baked into some of the appliances that you're running in your environments. Mm-hmm. Some of the third party code is still a black box. So there's a lot of challenges there. And I think anything dealing with security, we first need visibility before we can take that next step. And I think that's where a lot of folks are going to be looking at RSA is something easier, simpler, that brings in all this information and sums it up for them. And you've got the Chasm vendors, the cyber asset management vendors who integrate with 100 other services that you use, bring all that data in one place. You've got SaaS is another difficult one, because you manage the smallest part of the application, but most of our company data is there, like Slack. Like, I don't know anything about the security behind all the data on Slack, and how do you manage, everybody's an admin on a lot of these. Like, I'm shocked sometimes at the level of things I can do with like corporate Slack instances. Like, I can just start integrating plugins and stuff like that with it that now have access to all that data. Mm-hmm. So yeah, cloud visibility, asset visibility, SaaS visibility, and then third-party visibility. Those are 4 areas that I think you're going to at least want some kind of effort into making sure you can see what could be a problem for you. And then you can start taking those next steps and, okay, how do I build policies? How do I enforce them? How do I make sure, things aren't drifting outside those policies?
Yeah.
So,
Jason, same question.
Yeah. So one of the things that came to my mind with this immediately was just the complexity around cloud services and what's out there, and people's perception of when they're using cloud services and when they're not, or when they think that they're not and they are. I looked at an intrusion last year, late last year, for example, where to speak to some of the visibility, one of our IR folks was telling me about an intrusion where somebody responds to a phish or something like that. The intruder gets on and steals a cookie related to their M365 stuff.
Yeah,
authentication
and an OAuth token.
They just replay that, and all of the harvesting of data and configuration changes that were made because the account had too many permissions and people didn't realize it, or in security controls that they maybe thought were there but weren't enabled. All of that happened off of their systems, and you're looking at these incredibly terrible log files indicating that something's gone wrong. And I just look at this, the defenders and just like, oh my gosh, this is rough to deal with. And it's just so easy to shoot yourself in the foot because I didn't check this box over here or something. I didn't even know how it worked. Right. There are like 50 different admin portals to log in if you want to use Microsoft services, and some of them have lockouts and some of them don't, and some have two-factor and some don't. Oh my, you're just, there's a huge amount of complexity to deal with. And I think we've probably taken on a lot of risk without even realizing we have, because we don't know how all this stuff plays in with each other.
Yeah,
we might not even know our company are using some of these products like all the time. Like I hear people talk about, I found out today that we're using Notion, or we're using whatever the app of the day is, and you're finding out a year after your company's already adopted it and started pumping data into it.
Oh, and Notion has wonderful? AI now.
Yeah, Notion. I used AI in Notion. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty handy.
To hit your point, Adrian, how about the companies that are like, so on this project we use Notion, on this project we use Slack, on this project we use Asana, on this project we use
Why
Trello.
do you hate yourselves? Good Lord, standardize.
So true.
Yeah.
Platform sprawl.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's really tough, and it's I think it goes back to your point, Josh, that AI is going to be built into all these things. It'll be just like a virtual employee. Like you'll talk to it on Slack as if it's just another employee. You'll just invoke it with like an @ sign, and it'll be like that in Outlook. It'll be like that in when you're writing a Word document in Word, and in Google Docs. It'll be like that in Notion. You'll just ask for something and an AI will just start dumping text out. And hopefully it's not Sam. Hopefully it didn't come from somebody's DMs or, like,
oh, geez.
Yeah.
So
hopefully it's not the wrong data.
So let me, I want to gear this towards the people who will be attending RSA who have responsibilities within their SOCs. And, they will no doubt be looking for ways to better track and respond to what really is a world on fire. They'll be looking at technology that can help them. They'll be looking for talent to come help them out. What kind of opportunities and technologies should they be looking at? And the first one to start talking wins.
They should be looking, as security professionals, And as CISOs, as CIOs, CTOs, et cetera, they should be looking for ways to better communicate and better automate their workflows and better integrate their compliance, their security, and their business. Okay, now that is a very generic term or a very generic phrase. But the point is that right now, in most companies, we have such a disconnect between compliance, security, and business that it is as if they work at odds to each other. And in most companies, or many companies, that's exactly what they do. They work at odds to each other. Yeah. Oh, you want us to secure that? That's going to slow us down. We can't do that. Get the hell out of here. Okay? And oh, you want us to push code out without even looking at it first. And oh, you want certificate automation? God help you. Okay? I mean, whereas reality, the more secure you make a product that still allows the customer to do their job in an expedient and effective fashion, this is what makes you a better competing company in the marketplace. The better you can link that to a compliance standard where you can say, hey, we're doing things properly, securely, as best as we can, with effective and efficient business processes, and we meet the standards of this XYZ standard. So our cyber insurance can maybe not hit a 300 or 500% increase this year. We're doing okay.
Jason, thoughts?
Yeah, man, I bouncing around all over the place with this one. Where are they going to have the most trouble? You have, like Josh is talking about, the integration of all of these parts of the business, the compliance, security. Trying for security to try and be more efficient and effective so that we can do what we need to do and not be in people's way, to look at a new technology like AI and, either ignore it because we think it's a buzzword or we don't want to deal with it. And then now we have to go back and learn all about this and try and secure it. And how do these are things that people are going to be trying to grapple with, I think. And how are they going to do it with tightened up budgets? Mm-hmm. Where headcount that they thought they had going into 2023, they don't have anymore. Maybe they've had layoffs. So you still have all the work that needs to be done.
Maybe.
But
they've had layoffs.
Now you can't. Now you're going to do it with less people. Now you can do it with less tools. And by the way, all these tools, they don't like each other and they don't communicate with each other anyway, so it's siloed all over the place. And you got a lot of work to do if you do have to respond to an intrusion, because you have to correlate, to spend time going through all of these different tools and figuring out what's going on. So, for me, as I'm thinking about this, it's like, how do we make our people more effective? How do we give them things that allow them to be better at their job, to be prepared for when something goes bump and goes wrong, and not turn into the curmudgeons over here in the corner that everybody wants to get around. I don't know.
Right.
A lot of thoughts on this. I don't know. We've got all this new stuff coming out, but we're still doing bad at vulnerability management and having trouble with patching things.
Yeah.
So, we've got all of the old baggage plus new baggage coming. Great.
Exactly. Yep. Adrian.
Always. So reiterate the question for me real quick. I want to make sure.
So
I'm answering.
This is for attendees who have responsibilities within their organization's SOC. What you think they should be looking at
within the SOC. Okay.
Within the SOC. So technology, other opportunities they should be looking at to help them with their areas of struggle.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I think the number one thing in the SOC, how do you know what to look for? Yeah, how do you know where your gaps are? Especially, detection engineering should be, well connected with the SOC. You should have some very tight feedback loops on, hey, this thing happened during our pen test and we didn't see it. So let's fix that. Let's make sure that we see these kinds of things that we expect attackers to do. And honestly, I think the best way to find your flaws, to find your issues, is to just constantly test. I look at it like imagine you're on a sports team, and you're preparing for the game, and the game is when you inevitably get attacked. What are you going to do to prepare for that game? You're going to run mock games. The teammates are going to play against each other. You're going to work on your skills. But you've got to. The first time you're figuring out how to use a tool or realizing you're not getting all the logs that you need should not be during the incident. So the most that you can test that beforehand, whether you're simulating the attacks yourself, which there's tools out there for. There's free tools, there's commercial tools. There's even services out there that will come in and emulate what an attacker looks like when they get into your systems. And you're going to have a laundry list of stuff that you didn't catch, that you didn't see. I remember after the SolarWinds, that whole kerfuffle, the whole Solarigate thing, a bunch of vendors were like, we caught that. Our products caught that. And first thing I said is, it doesn't count if a person didn't see it. Sure, yeah, maybe it was one of the 1 million critical issues that your product discovered, but since no human can look through 1 million issues in one day, it doesn't count. It doesn't count if a person doesn't see it. So I think that's a big chunk of what's missing. The glue that's missing today is we've got people, we've got products, but the people are not good enough at using those products, or those products are misconfigured. And the only way we find those gaps is testing and practice.
And maybe I could add on, when you buy a new solution, actually go ahead and invest in training people on how to use that solution, so that they've got a better shot at using it and finding the misconfigurations.
Now, we always skip the training, right? We always skip the training.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't remember ever proposing something and seeing that get whacked off immediately at the beginning.
So we have come up on time, according to the folks in the ear. But yeah, this has been great in terms of parting thoughts there. In terms of what people need to be focusing on. Hopefully this has helped in terms of making the browse of the showroom floor more efficient. But great discussion. Great to be on with all of you. I want to thank Cisco for sponsoring this segment, and I want to thank the audience for tuning in. And also, if you are at RSA next month, please come by and say hello to us. You will find Security Weekly operating from Broadcast Alley, which is in the front lobby of Moscone West. And we'd love to talk to you. So hope to see you there. Meantime, Jason, Josh, Adrian, thank you much. And everyone be well.